So, good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Carranza. I serve as Superintendent of Schools, the Houston Independent School District, and I'm joined here this morning by Trustee Ann Sung, one of our members of the Board of Education. We expect that some more of our board members may join us in just a moment. We'll bring them up as well. But I'm also joined here by many of our colleagues, my colleagues in the district, many of our principals, and you'll understand why I've asked the principals to join us, these particular principals to join us here this morning. So this morning, the Texas Education Agency, TEA, released the accountability ratings for campuses for the 2016-2017 school year. I'm very, very proud to report that HISD continues to make significant academic progress district-wide. In fact, with today's release of ratings, 90% of our campuses in the HISD have met or exceeded the state's standards. That is the highest percentage of HISD schools in the last 5 years, actually since the accountability system was effective in 2013. Again, 90% of our schools district-wide have met or exceeded the campuses in the academic standards. In particular, 259 campuses were also eligible for distinction designations this year. And in order to be eligible for a distinction, you must be in the top quartile of like schools across the state of Texas. So again, 259 of our campuses were eligible this year for distinction designations. 160 of our campuses received at least one distinction designation, placing them again, as I mentioned, in the top quartile of similar campuses across the state of Texas. 33 of our campuses received every eligible distinction for their academic level, 33 of our campuses. So that's a very good indicator of the academic strength of the HISD schools. In addition to our campuses, the district overall received a rating of Met Standard. And again, this is for this past school year, 2016-2017. And this is another very good indicator of academic achievement for our district. We all know that we have some of the top schools in the country, and we're very proud of our schools. This year, 278 of our school campuses received an academic rating by the Texas Education Agency. Of those 278 campuses, 27 campuses received a rating of improvement required. Improvement required, sometimes referred to as IR, indicates that the campus has not met the academic standard to meet standards. And there are 4 indices that are used to calculate that rating. We have 27 of our 278 campuses that did not meet the standard. That compares to last year, we had 38 schools that received an improvement required rating from the state. So we've reduced the number of campuses that have earned that distinction of improvement required. Again, that's a good thing. It's a very positive trend. We also know with the recent news from TEA and the implementation of HB 1842 that there are a number of school campuses that this year must improve significantly enough to avoid the penalties associated with HB 1842. The penalties associated with HB 1842 are the commissioner shall implement either a closure of the campus or the imposition of a board of managers. I'm going to pause here to also recognize one of our trustees, Holly Maria Flynn Villaseca. Thank you, Trustee Flynn Villaseca, for being here today. So this is important for us because 10 of our 27 IR schools this year fall into that cohort of schools that must improve significantly enough to exit improvement required status, or they face the sanctions under HB 1842. I want to reiterate to our community that the Board of Education and this administration is laser focused on providing the supports, the resources, the capacity building through an equity lens to ensure that those 10 campuses will not have to face the sanctions under HB 1842. We are very proud of the schools and what they have done. And the reason I'm joined with by the principals that you see behind me is because This year, we were able to have 21 of our schools that exited IR status, that were IR last year, improvement required, and this year have met standards. And they are the principals of the schools that have led their campuses to that designation. So what I'd like to do is invite one or two to the mic. First, I'm going to ask our trustees if they would like to share a word or two. And then I'm going to invite one or two of our principals to just share some of the things that they did this past year, that they did to enable their campuses to move out of improvement required status and into met standards status. So at this point, I'd like to invite Trustee Sung and Trustee Vilaseca to say a few words around the release of these academic standard scores today.
Good morning. I'd like to say that I, as a trustee on this board, am very encouraged by these results, but also very sensible of the work that lies ahead of us. We have an experienced team here who knows how to get results for students, from the principals you see here to our superintendent. I myself was a teacher and part of the leadership team at a school in 2009 to 2011, Lee High School, that was in IR for over 5 years and came out of IR. I understand how hard this work is, but also that it's possible. If we raise academic standards for our students, get really focused on delivering the best quality instruction to them, and also put the wraparound supports around our schools and families that they need to be able to come to school ready to learn each day. When those ingredients are in place, we can work miracles. And I want to let you know that this board and our superintendent have not been waiting to put these pieces into place. We've been working hard over the last year to implement these strategies and the Achieve 180 framework we're going to be working on very hard this year.
And I just want to reiterate and emphasize everything and I'm very proud here to be standing alongside principals that have been doing the work on a laser focus, and that we are providing the wraparound supports for our schools, because it truly is a partnership between everything that we're doing here at HISD with the community, with strong leadership. And I'm really encouraged that we're going to be learning from these other schools so that we can implement some of these different practices in our schools that have been identified on the IR list. And again, I do commit to also working in partnership with the fellow trustees and the Board of Education to make sure that we are laser focused from a governance standpoint on the things that matter, so that we can, again, to be able to monitor and to also encourage and believe in our schools and in our students.
Thank you, trustees. The designation of an improvement required status is not a moniker that defines a school community. There are incredible talent, there are incredible gifts that exist in our school communities, and often it's the leader that will come together with their staff to be able to lead that community in finding those gifts, finding those talents, and leading to higher academic achievement. So I'd like for you to hear from a couple of our principals, and I'd like to invite Mr. Bush to come forward from Cashmere Gardens Elementary School, and then we're going to ask Ms. Monahan from one of our secondary schools to talk to you a little bit about what they've done over the past year to help lead their schools out of that IR designation and lead them into not only meeting standards but eventually exceeding standards. I will say one other thing before they come up is that, again, it's important to understand that there are incredible things happening at these campuses, and that the designations in terms of the bar that has been set for schools to meet standards or exceed standards has risen over the last 5 years since the implementation of this accountability system. So they've been now meeting a rising bar, which is something to be very proud of as well. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, their name, and what school they're from, and then talk a little bit about what they did over the course of this past year to help lead them out of IR status.
Good morning. Thank you, Superintendent Carranzas. First, I'd like to thank the entire school district and the community for the phenomenal support that you have lended in making sure that our kids get the very best at Cashmere Gardens Elementary School. And on behalf of my colleagues and myself, we all like to say thank you to everyone for the phenomenal support that was given from the superintendent and the central office here in Houston Independent School District. Basically, every day we worked on those 3 fundamental principles. Everyone that's standing here has 3 fundamental principles. And number 1, it starts with believing in children. And number 2, that's eliminating every excuse. And last but not least, staying laser focused, as you've heard it a couple of times. This year, more principals took it serious to go out to other campuses who may have had a similar or like campus, making sure we looked at all the sub-pops of every student that was entering our building. And last but not least, making sure that the parents and the community was empowered, which is an initiative that I hear the superintendent talk about so often. We have to make very sure every single day it's a vetting process of who we bring to work with our children each and every day. So what we do every day is take it very serious, making sure that planning is the focus. We have to plan properly and accordingly for each and every child. And last but not least, making sure that we eliminate every excuse and believe in the child.
Thank you very much. Now, this is particularly important because Cashmere Gardens was an improvement required status for a number of years. And one of the statistics we're also very proud of this year is that we were, as a district, through the hard work of our principals and teachers and school staffs, we were able to move a bigger cohort of schools that were in multiple years of IR status out of IR this year, and that's a significant feat we're very proud of. So I'd like to ask Ms. Monahan to come forward, again, introduce yourself, what school you're from, and talk a little bit about the school, what that work looked like at a high school level.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here this morning. When we talk about family, and we talk about family of Westbury High School, as the principal of Westbury High School, that branches way beyond just Westbury High School. It branches on to my colleagues who we work closely with. It branches on to the family here at the district office, our superintendent, who's a huge supporter of rallying behind us and helping us with everything that we need help with. I couldn't be more proud of our school to come off the IR list. It took first developing relationships with our students and making sure that they understand how important they are to us. As a principal of Westbury High School going into my third year, the first thing we did was start to build culture within that school and let the students know that we believed in them. And I think that's where it started for us 2 years ago. Each year it has developed more and more. The teachers are staying. We're keeping our staff. That has been a key in improving instruction on the campus. The other part is looking at data every single day. Right now we're in our 2 weeks of professional development. We're already starting to look at the students that are coming to Westbury and making sure that we are ready for them on day one. But the first thing we're going to do is make sure that they know we're there for them and that we'll do whatever it takes to help them succeed. That's what our goal is. Our students come with a lot of needs. We talk about the wraparound services that HISD supports us with. That's key. And being a part of Achieve 180 is actually going to be a huge support for us this year already. We've looked at the pillars as a staff already. We're developing those areas that we know we need to strengthen, and we're going to be ready for those students on day one. So we're excited, we're on the right track, and we're ready to just move forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if I was to ask each one of my colleagues to come up and share, you'd hear very similar and some powerful stories as well. So I hope you don't mind. We have two representatives that represented you so well this morning. I mentioned this morning about 10 schools that will be subject to the sanctions under House Bill 1842. But it's important to also recognize 3 schools that were on that list to be eligible for sanctions and have already taken themselves off the list. And that is Cashmere Gardens Elementary School, congratulations, and also Victory Prep North and Victory Prep South, whose principal is here as well. So we want to congratulate them for coming off that list as well. So with that, my colleagues and I will be here, and we're happy to answer whatever questions you may have.
Superintendent, for perpetually, troubled schools, I know in a lot of these communities, the parents, there's almost a stigma, in overcoming some of these challenges are difficult. What is your message to those families who are in these districts where these schools happen to be located?
Yeah, so my message is that there's no such thing as a bad school. What there is a lack of district support for addressing the challenges that school and school communities have. So it's important for parents to understand that when they visit a school, they should look beyond the designation. They should actually talk to the principal. They should talk to teachers. They should walk the hallways. They should look at what is the community involvement with that particular school. And I think that part of the stigma that gets perpetuated, and we want to be part of breaking that stigma, is this notion that it's a bad school, you should go somewhere else. I'll give you a perfect example. Cashmere Gardens was a school that suffered from that stigma. Yet when parents and students came to the school and became part of that new energy in the school, you can see that the academic achievement is starting to blossom and move forward. And Kashmir Gardens may have met standards, but they're going to exceed standards this year because they have this momentum that's going for them. So the message really is there aren't bad schools. It's how we as a community rally to support our schools that is very, very important.